ISSTM-TED 2024 will resume in 5 minutes. Kindly take your seat to join us. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and a very good day all. Welcome back to International Symposium on Strategy and Transformation Management for Tertiary Education, ISSTM-TED 2024. The agenda continues with a keynote speech by our distinguished guest, Professor Gretchen Geng. So how are you, Professor Gretchen?
I'm pretty good, thank you.
All right. So I believe Australia is 2 hours ahead from us right now. We are 2 p.m. So at your side, it would be about 4 p.m. in the afternoon, isn't it?
Yeah, 4:30 p.m.
All right. Okay. So thank you for joining us in ISSTM-TED 2024. So let me introduce our keynote speaker in this afternoon. Professor Gretchen Geng is a professor of innovative education futures at Flinders University. So prior to this role, she served as deputy head of school at the School of Education, Victoria Melbourne campus, head of discipline early childhood education at Australian Catholic Universities, executive director at Beijing Foreign Studies University, academic lead at the DVC Education Office of RMIT University, and associate professor of pedagogy and learning at Charles Darwin University. Renowned internationally for her expertise in digital technologies in early childhood education, Gretchen brings a wealth of experience to her current position. Before embarking on her tertiary career, she dedicated years to teaching young children. Her commitment to harnessing the potential of digital educational technologies extends to global learning contexts. So, where she has actively explored their applications in early childhood education. Gretchen's current research focuses on analyzing the impact of teaching resources and the innovative use of augmented reality in early childhood education. Her work sheds light on how these tools can enhance learning experiences and support children's development. Today, Professor Gretchen will be discussing on the topic use of AI-assisted augmented reality technology in immersive learning. So please join me in giving a warm virtual welcome to Professor Gretchen Geng.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to start sharing. Just give me 1 second.
Sure.
Okay. So I believe now you can see my PowerPoint.
Yes, it is on the screen.
Thank you. I am very delighted to present my keynote speech on the use of AI-assisted augmented reality technology in immersive learning at this international symposium on strategy and transformation management for tertiary education. I would like to start my presentation by acknowledging our First Nations and traditional owners and custodians of Ghana land on which I'm presenting. I pay my respect and recognize their valuable contributions to Australian and global society. Right, just go to the next slide. Before I present my speech about AI, AR, and immersive learning, I think I would like to share a little bit more about myself. Thank you so much for a very glorious introduction about myself. I would like to share a little bit more. Currently, I am a professor in innovative education futures in Flinders University at Australia. I have over 20 years of higher education experience. I've been teaching and researching hundreds of university students as well. I'm a very passionate person about research-informed education, meaning I believe research and teaching are connected, and research service education, including our pedagogical knowledge, development, and intentional teaching strategies we are using in our teaching. In drawing any conclusion what we need to do in the future, I always follow the evidence we collected, analyzed, and understood. So my expertise areas include digital play among young children. So you will see some of the examples later I will provide it, including young children. but I'm also looking into digital technologies can enhance learning environments in tertiary education. And today, in my presentation, I would like to present my new research-informed practice in virtual immersive learning environments and how they transform our future tertiary education. So I will focus on transformation of learning environments in tertiary education and go through some theoretical underpinning of dynamic systems theory. And probably I would like to trigger you to do some in-depth thinking or discussion in yourself of future immersive learning environments development in tertiary education. So in this presentation, I will also try to refresh your knowledge. I know a lot of you are STEM practitioners and teachers and lecturers. I will also go through some commonly used immersive language learning technologies, such as augmented reality, AR, virtual reality, VR, mixed reality, MR, or extended reality, XR, by providing some examples and work through some examples of my own research among children and classroom teachers. I think it will provide some discussion basis later to elaborate thoughts and understandings of different use of immersive learning environment developments in tertiary education. So let's begin. Tertiary education learning environments are commonly used to provide a framework for staff and students to enhance students' ability to evaluate learning in more depth. As what you can see in the diagram, the framework of learning environments in tertiary education is quite comprehensive, as it involves understanding from all contributors, including university and student-level constructs driven by the diverse forces, contributing to different kinds of academic teaching processes, students' learning experiences, and achieving their learning outcomes. And all these formed a very comprehensive mini environments. I call them little mini environments because they influence each other. Each wheel, you can see I've got 3 wheels here, is turning the other wheels as well. So one wheel turning, the other wheel will also turn accordingly. And in this diagram, you may notice I leave the 2 main learning constructs, which are the student level and university level constructs together, and the new digital technologies as the driving force. So you can see, even though it's a small little driving force, once it's turned, our student level constructs and university level constructs also change accordingly. So we will come back to the diagram later in my presentation to understand the transformation process. But at the moment, in this slide, let's look into the learning environments and how they can be conceptualized, the learning constructs in our tertiary education. Sorry, go to the next slide. Most universities offer a structured range of teaching and learning facilities. Predominantly, we know they are face-to-face, online, and blended. We call them blended these days, to enhance learners' academic performance and course satisfaction. With lots of different kinds of new technologies being implemented, it requires our tertiary education institutions to reconsider how these facilities can be offered. And we know such variations in offerings make these kinds of dynamic changes to the learning environment. Could be positively or negatively impacting the learning constructs in our higher education. And we know these changes are triggered by various forces inside and outside of the universities. So in this case, I use the dynamic system theory, which I'll call that DST, as the theoretical underpinning to review our current and previous research regarding the teaching and learning process and investigate how they impact the transformation process. We're talking about different kinds of transformations in our learning outcome transformation, academic performance transformation, and of course, the learning satisfaction transformation as well. Why I'm actually using dynamic system theory is because it's different from a linear system. This dynamic system theory allows us to adhere into the parameters and allow an agent. Who are the agents? For example, a university student could be an agent. And these agents can come together and develop a sudden phase transitions from less functional to a more stable learning habits and patterns. What does that mean? They can be organized by attractors. What is attractors? Attractors is a kind of reinforce or a positive energy and help us to respond to changes in a teaching and learning environment. For example, if we use a change of new technology implementation, but with enough and sufficient support to the students and learners. The DST, the dynamic system theory, is used here instead of the linear system theory, as I said, is to investigate and manage the transition process, including the changes by these positive energy attractors in the use of new technologies. We have known people behavioral patterns in dynamic systems generally resist the change and are quite stable. For example, some traditional mode of teaching and learning have been quite predominant and mode historically. We can recall back in COVID time 2020. At the start of the COVID time, many of us, including students, including lecturers, staff, academics, we found it extremely difficult to adjust really quickly from fully face-to-face teaching and learning to fully online, fully online learning mode, and no face-to-face teaching at all. And now we're moving into, okay, we can do a bit of online teaching and face-to-face teaching, but how are we going to really combine that to make it a really effective and efficient hybrid teaching? So if we look into the dynamic system, we can find what we call that the state of the system emerges on the basis of its previous state and will provide a basis for the next state, which means we will need to understand our current state in order to understand the transformation we're going to make for the future. So we need to be aware the new technology we are going to implement in teaching and learning also emerge as a possible platform. This platform will have its own form and functions, and they can reflect the same objectives as all the other traditional delivery or the before new technology implementations. So doesn't matter what kinds of technologies we're going to use, we need to always go back to the what we would like the students to do, to learn. The learning outcomes, the academic performance and achievements should be the same direction. We're not going backwards. Although most of the time, the behavior of the system can depend on its initial starting condition and can change rapidly at beginning, and then it overshoot its eventual state pattern and stay for a while and finally arrive at stable point. We probably already learned different kinds of technologies while we are in the tertiary education field. A lot of time when we found or implement a new technology, we probably really love it, really engage with it, and then we overshoot. What does it mean? So it means we really got too exaggerated into a very overexcited moment. But then we come back a little bit and let this really settle in, stay for a while. And then we come to a very stable point yes, we can use the technology to work to achieve a good outcome. So during this time, some of the barriers in the system, or sometimes we call that repellers, in the system, they will self-organize away and possibly not be part of the system moving forward. So some of the negative force slowly will moving away, self-organize themselves away, because we need to find a really good, stable balance. And again, take the COVID as example. Even though many of us were not 100% experienced in emergency online learning, but it slowly become a routine for us. And the reluctance, attitudes from staff and students slowly faded out and moved away. So all these kinds of, the relationship between these forms of the learning, what we call the attractors, or the engaging force for the system to start to develop a common state of behavior and provide a level of stability. So I would like you to rethink about this dynamic system theory, because I wanted to always bring this with us when we going to consider the following: how we really going to use these kinds of AI augmented reality technologies in immersive learning. As universities, we globally create preferred systems in which teaching and learning are facilitated through the processes of understanding of these different forces, including positive forces like attractors or the negative forces like repellers. Within these learning constructs, remember we're talking about the university level and the student level. So they are actually what these forces are really turning them. The reason behind could lies in that the theories aim to address the process of learning rather than the outcome of change and development. So let's think the dynamic system theory's main contributions to this is related to facilitating the examinations of the overall change patterns and to achieve being stabilization, destabilization, and self-regulation. So in summary, it is important for us to understand university is actually a general stable system. Doesn't matter if it is, even though it's complex and dynamic. And with the dynamic system theory in mind, we can really look into the immersive learning environments. Learning environments for students can be physically and virtually based. And these physical learning environments, as what we know, we study in a classroom, it can include indoor and outdoor classroom settings. I don't know whether you like to take your students outside, sometimes to have a sunshine outside setting class, that would be fun. And most of the time, we'll probably, when we're doing the physical learning, could be indoors. But the virtual learning environments normally refer to the learning management system-based learning environment. So if you have a Moodle or you have a Blackboard or Canvas-based, these kinds of learning management system really support a virtual learning environment. And they're very commonly used in universities, tertiary education, and even in school settings. These learning environments includes learning materials presentations such as video presentations, audio recordings, or even we can have digital classes online. Moreover, in virtual learning environments, we can also include different kinds of tools for content delivery or communication or collaboration designed to engage our students through various virtual forms of learning activities. So immersive learning environments is a digital physical space that uses advanced technology or experiential methods to create highly engaging and realistic learning experiences. So they have to be combining of the technologies, but also needs to be experiencing. So need to provide some kinds of experience to our students. It needs to be very engaging, but also include realistic learning experience as well. When we're talking about these immersive learning environments, they're designed to stimulate real-world settings or to create completely new world, like when we're using VR. Because we allow learners to interact with the learning environment to enhance their understanding and retention of knowledge. So an immersive virtual learning environment typically combines the principle of immersive learning with VR, AR, or other advanced technologies such as robotics to create different kinds of highly engaging and interactive educational experiences. And I believe in an immersive learning environment, learners are transported into a virtual space that simulates real-world scenarios and create entire new worlds to enable them to learn through direct interactions and explorations. It was noted most of the immersive learning environments, and they are mostly designed for tertiary education. So why not tap into these kinds of learning environments and use these kinds of tools to stimulate our students' learning in this virtual, immersive way? Well, we just mentioned about the VR and AR earlier. Let's have a look at these two in details because they are very commonly used immersive learning technologies. And I have provided some information here. I'm pretty sure most of you have already used them, but just to refresh your knowledge, I provide some information here. VR is an advanced human-computer interface simulating a realistic environment. It creates a fully computer-generated virtual environments in which users can interact using devices such as the VR goggles and headset, like I provided a picture on this side. You can see, we can wear the big goggle in front of you and then control the environment by using the handles. Well, AR is a little bit different. It creates a real-time direct or indirect view of the physical real-world environment that has been enhanced or augmented by adding virtual computer-generated information to it. So we can still see the real world, but then we add, on top of that, we add a computer-generated information. It's overlaying digital information on top of the real world using devices such as smartphones or tablets or even now glasses. So if we're saying, if you're only talking about augmented, still be using the iPhone or tablets, you're out of date. Now they're using glasses. I also provided some pictures here. So if we compare these two pictures, we can see both of them started with goggle design. So even the augmented reality ones also start with goggle design, very bulky, very big. And the VR slowly moving more into the handsets. So we're using the handsets, we are not manipulating, we're using the handsets to manipulate and press the buttons. And goggles to go into a completely immersive learning environment. So you could not see the real world around you. You can see a new world when you're wearing the VR goggles. But the AR has already been applied to augmented books. You have already probably used in a classroom setting by using those books, and you put your mobile phones or tablets on top of that. You can see, some augmented content can be shown. Could be the little people coming out of the book, start singing, walking, dancing. All these ones also have been used in mathematics, science, arts, in all sorts of different educational settings. Recently, the integration of AR technology in teaching and learning contexts in education environments also provides students with hands-on experiences and simulated real-world scenarios that are difficult to recreate in a classroom setting. I would like to show you some examples later. So for immersive learning, I found the AR design is getting more into a sunglasses style. So they are very light, like my glasses, very, very light. They help students better understand complex concepts by providing them with a visual representation of abstract or difficult to grasp ideas. It allows our users to manipulate using their hands, bare hands, virtual different kinds of objects in mid-air. So they are not using the handsets anymore like the VR. They're using their bare hands to manipulate the virtual objects. So I have used the AR-assisted classroom, and students actually interact with these virtual objects to receive immediate sensory motor feedback. So they can really see, they can observe, they can touch, they can interact with the virtual objects. I have already mentioned some disadvantages of using VR. From my personal experience of teaching and researching, I have also noticed quite a few users develop kinds of vertigo issues and motion sickness problems when they're using VR. And they can't wear the goggle for long. And in fact, the health organization, the WHO, also talked about the young children could not really tell the difference between the real world and virtual world. So in order for us to make the best learning outcome, remember I said back into the dynamic system theory, it doesn't matter what kinds of technologies we are going to use. We always need to come back to the learning goals, to the learning outcomes, to the content learning, to the cognitive and the other areas development for our students. So with the AR technologies, even they are very light, very, very lightweight, and they now even have the AI technology embedded, which means the students can hands-free engage with any kinds of virtual objects. They can talk, they can make commands to the glasses, because the AI can recognize their voice and then carry on the command the users ask them to do. So build this into these AR smart glasses. They can also live streaming field of view, like you can wear it and see large 3D pictures of objects, virtual objects around you. They enable a separate focus adjustment for each eye, and they also independently enabling a crisp picture. Even the users are nearsighted. For example, I'm quite nearsighted, but if I'm wearing the augmented reality glasses, I can literally just put it on and it's not very heavy. While wearing the AR smart glasses, users can see and interact with virtual learning objects with their hands and do not lose the view of surrounding physical environments. And as I said, because now the AI technology has also been included or embedded in the AR smart glasses, they can support verbal interactions between the users and could be very user-friendly. And the motion sensing function supported by the AI technology in those smart glasses also allow the glasses to detect the user's motion and the characteristics and adjust them to learning environment and their experiences. And they can also be synced with iPad or Apple TV screens. And this function really allows those students to collaborate with their peers and teachers during this immersive learning. So I'm not saying I really promote this, but my experience, the AR, it's so much easier to be used and could be great significance to investigate how these AI technologies can be embedded in the AR smart glasses could really help us to facilitate learning environments in tertiary education. And that could really help us to do the transformation, to impact on our students' learning engagements and outcomes. So now I'm going to do some fun, have some fun. So I'm going to share with you some examples of the AR have been assisted in immersive learning environment. So I'm providing you with 2 videos. So the left video, if I'm going to click, I hope you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? Okay.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. So the left video is actually showing interacting with cartoon characters. Imagine you can really have, interaction with cartoon characters. And this is actually at the Times Square. As what you can see, the real physical environment and the augmented, embedded virtual environment can be used to combine a very fun, engaging interaction environment. And users like this one, I'm gonna play it again, you can see it's actually dancing with the Snow White or having a kind of interaction with Pikachu. So there are many different ways to actually work on this. And I'll have a look at the right side, sorry. And the right side picture, I'm trying to really work. I hope you can still. Oh, okay, good. So the right side is actually some people with rare and distinguished animal interactions. So you can see this woman is petting. Let's do it again. See, can you see the woman is petting virtually a cheetah, and a dinosaur just come out of nowhere. We all know dinosaurs, just huge, long time ago. And please pay attention to the sizes. They are actually a true size of the animals. So the dinosaurs is very large, but the cheetah is a lot smaller in the way. I think they did provide interactions in this experience by combining the virtual environment and the virtual objects with the learning, with the interactions in a physical context. And this engagement level, which you can see from the participating people's faces, are very, very high because they are really enjoying themselves and engaged about whatever experience they are experiencing. And I'm going to show you another one. And this one is, I actually worked with an augmented reality technology company, and we developed this fascinating education experience for museum. We turned something not so engaging museum tour into a very engaging educational tour. I just wanted to emphasize here, I received permission to share it here, but please do not download or share without our permission. This is just a copyright issue. Okay, so let's have a look.
Used its keen eyesight and sensitive snout to track down prey. The Romaleosaurus gradually disappeared from our waters and became extinct over 170 million years ago.
Is that fascinating?
Yes, of course. We are in big screen right now, yeah?
The dinosaurs, what we can see here, was developed according to the same size of the fossil. So it's real fossil. We use that to develop. And users, in fact, can go walk up and down the museum hallway. I mean, I just standing here because I was wearing glasses and I want to show you guys. But if you are really wearing the glasses and can see those and wanted to follow up, you could follow up with the dinosaurs going to the other room. Imagine we walk into all these learning environments, have had interactions rather than just look at the fossil on the wall. So rather than showing the audience the fossil, the dinosaur look like real and very educational in terms of children really can use their 5 senses to understand, because they can see, they can hear, and to conceptualize the concept of environment science and sustainability, because we're talking, this is the education curriculum part of science and sustainability. So let's move on. Sorry. So as I said earlier, I'm an evidence-based practitioner and researcher and educator. In order for us to investigate these actual education values of AR immersive learning environments, I led a lot of research projects among young children use of these kinds of technologies. So I'm sharing some photos here. What you can see, there are many primary school students were involved in these. While using the technologies, they can wander around and looking up and down and walk around the arms. A lot of them actually, we found them, they walk with them arms stretched like a zombie, walking like that. It's very interesting. They're reaching out the hands to front and trying to touch. They're really trying to touch the objects. And what striking us most while we're observing these students is the kinds of joy, the real happiness, the joy, and some other emotions like amazed, feeling silly and excited and worried and nervous and frustrated and calm and focused and consented. All these kinds of lots of emotions we can see from our children's faces. And there are some other different types of movements you can also notice when students are using augmented reality. There are movements used to manipulate the size and positions of the objects. There are movements associated with interacting with the virtual objects, like they're waving, they're swiping, they're running away, they're pointing. There are also other movement patterns associated while we are exploring learning context. And some of them, they're even crouching down from different angles on the floor, lying up to see and trying to touch the surface. We found most of the children or students work very calmly and safely though, with no motion sickness cited. You could see most of the children, they also like to walk backwards. They like to walk backwards. So there is an important reason to have large and clear safe areas, if you could. And children spoke out loud about most of the experiences to themselves. Like, you know, they could be seeing, they could be running, they could be, you know, they tell other people how they felt. The glasses, what they are wearing, they can interact with each other because they can see from others holding an iPad, so the synced iPad, so they can see each other. We also noticed some additional needs students are generally most engaged. So like this particular picture, you can see there is a student in a wheelchair. And she can also play these glasses together with their classmates. And we also noticed there's some autistic children were so engaged and on track of their learning during this whole process. So there are many, many different examples I would like to give to you because of the time. And I say the transformation exists among young children's learning. Change and transform our teachers' experience. Those groups of teachers we have been working also have very limited knowledge and experiences to AR glasses. They just like their students. So we look into how these teachers to really understand both the context and content for teaching to familiarize themselves with the technology. They need to understand the physical nature of the program and mastering the gestures and movement that operate the program effectively. While planning for the students' learning and the teachers, you can see they collaboratively unpack the potential of the AR learning environments, potential of the program and engagements, and how to make more than just a novelty experience, but to meet the academic goals through the programs. So the teachers plan to teach our students both the context and the AI experience, as well as the academic content. So as what you can see from the pictures, the group of teachers use their professional learning time after class and to practice their own technological and content knowledge of AR immersive learning technologies. They also sit down as a group to plan and understand the use of correct languages they're going to use to help their students' learning. So the teacher's experience also added a lot to the transformation of the learning environments, with a lot more thoughtful with curriculum development and planned involved. So let's come back. All these we just talked about, the research and practices help us to reset and reconsider the future of tertiary education and how these metaverse immersive learning environments will change our tertiary education. Please remember, our young children at school age will slowly grow up to become a university or tertiary students. And how are we going to close the gap? How are we going to really looking into these innovative education technologies now, but then transform that into really high levels of engagements, really high levels of learning outcomes, high levels of cognition, and high levels of collaboration. And I would like, probably after my speech, you might go and discuss with your colleagues, with your students probably, to think how you're going to really promote them. So I'm going back again to the initial part, the beginning part of my presentation. Remember the three big wheels? About learning environments in the tertiary education. We need to think about, again, the conceptualization of teaching and learning, of the contextual constructs in tertiary education. I talked a lot about dynamic system theory. So based on the dynamic system theory, they're not linear, but interwoven into each other, starting from environment level constructs. What can our university provide at this level? Is it quality of academic teaching and lectures? Is it providing students with their autonomy, or is it about changing learning modes or allowing our students to think about the academic and career expectations by providing them with integrated teaching and learning opportunities? How can we support our students at their individual level? How are we going to support their learning motivation? How are we going to support them to develop or achieve their academic competence, self-efficacy, and their level of academic interests and learning engagements? I do hope my presentation today will bring some of you into doing critical thinking about our learning environments, in particular, the AI and AR immersive learning environments, as they are the future for our students, and they are the future for us. So we need to learn, and of course, for us to excel in teaching and learning in tertiary education. We all know university students engaging university students is a challenge a lot of time. And we know those traditional lecture-based methods are giving way just more interactive experiential techniques to cater for the changing needs of the students. Like lectures, textbooks, and passive listening probably always being the backbones for tertiary education for centuries, but now we know many students disengage in these traditional environments. we are struggling to retain information and relate it to the real world application. So how are we going to explore these immersive learning environments to enhance our students' engagement, but also transforming the ways of our tertiary education institutes approach differently into our teaching and learning process? Engaged students are more likely to achieve higher academic performance, as what we know, to develop critical thinking skills, and retain information longer. So engaging learning experience can also, we know, foster motivation, curiosity, and creativity, which are the skills the community and society really need to have successful complex world development. Immersive technologies like AR allow our students to interact with course materials in hands-on way. So it's not just about, we listen and then we follow the textbook. We want our students to learn hands-on immersive learning. And so they can get really engaged rather than being disengaged or trying to quit. So instead of reading about all these, books and historical events, information booklets, the students can experience them through immersive simulations, and they can create stronger connections to the content we're going to deliver. Immersive learning encourages active participation, a proven way to improve our retention rates of our students. So if our students are immersed in a lab or AR design space, they're more likely to remember and apply what they have learned. And students can practice the real world skills in a risk-free and controlled immersive learning environments. Having said it though, I also want to acknowledge, although immersive learning environments, it's great, fascinating, it can be quite expensive to implement. You probably require a bit of significant investment in hardware and software. But as far as I know, a lot of universities have already started exploring partnerships with different technology companies to lower costs, to allow or increase more accessibilities for our students. Another challenge, as I said, is to training our staff and teachers to integrate these tools effectively into their teaching practice, because they are also new to our academics and the staff and teachers as well. They must be comfortable using these technologies to create meaningful learning environments for the students. But as I said, as universities strive to stay relevant in competitive and challenging these kinds of landscape environment, investing into these immersive learning environments could be a crucial step into transforming our students' engagement and preparing them for future challenges. So let's imagine a university where students learn by doing, by immersed into the simulations, into the virtual world, into solving real-world problems, rather than just listening to lectures. And I'm gonna say, this is not science fiction, and I believe this is the future of tertiary education. I think I've done enough talking, and I will leave the rest of the time for questions. Thank you.
All right, so thank you, Professor Gretchen. That was incredibly insightful, and we love to see the dinosaur, the skeleton running around in the vision in front of us. All right, so we have a few questions before we end the sessions. Okay, you talk about the children education just now. Okay, so I have one question on that. What are the ethical considerations in using AI and VR for children's education, particularly in terms of privacy, data security, and also screen time? What do you think about that?
It's a very good question. That's why I talked about the virtual reality, because when I was practicing that in the classroom, the VR one, we found it's not applicable to young children. But the augmented reality one is different because the students can still see the real world rather than, complete in another world. So when we're talking to the students, they are quite clear about what they're seeing. So instead of we're talking about another immersive learning, completely immersive world, they call them 4D dimensions. So they can see the other people can't see. But when we're talking about, go back to your question about ethical, we have obtained all the consent from the teachers and parents and even the students when we are practicing. And we also have medical practitioners aside, because if the students feel any kinds of motion sickness, we will support that as well. But so far, we tested over 100 students so far in Australia, and we found no children have experienced motion sickness in augmented reality technology use.
Okay, so I've been following the development of AR technology for a while now, so it is amazing to see how it's being applied to education. Are there any specific challenges or limitations that you foresee in the widespread adoption of this AI-assisted AR in classrooms?
Yeah, as I mentioned, because they are not cheap, they can be quite expensive. Even though I can see when I was working with the technology companies, they are trying their best to make it really accessible to young children. For example, they now develop a light version, which means it's not like the light of the glasses, because the glass is already very light. But the light version means the content-wise is not so heavy for the children because they have to carry a little mobile-style kinds of computer, main machine. It's very light. They can literally slip into their pocket. And because of its light, so it's a lot affordable in this way. But we also found when we are using these technologies, instead of one children using one pair, we actually, because it can sync with different kinds of iPads and mobile phone, for example, we can assign the group of children work together. And that could go back to answer your other questions about the privacy of the young children. The group of children play together with the glasses. So you really can't say, oh, this is Gretchen's glasses. It's not. It could be somebody else's glasses because we work in the same group. The children are working in the group. And that's why the verbal communication is extremely high because they show each other how to play those glasses. And it solves a lot of problems. And the other one, I believe, it's the staff. So again, going back to the dynamic system theory I discussed, when we are trying to use new technologies, remember the driving force? There will always be a kinds of repellers and attractors. So the positive force and negative force. It's not a bad thing because a lot of time when you were fascinated by the technology, a lot of time we overshoot it. No, we need to slowly drag it back a little bit. And then we need to find a good balance between teaching and learning and achieve the learning goals. Instead of, this is what we're going to do, and we are not consider some of the disadvantages of that. So I would say really up to the educators to carefully planning. Because when you're doing planning, you understand your own students. You understand what kinds of content you are going to bring to the classroom. And again, it doesn't matter what technology you're using. The final goals should be same. Thank you.
And with that response, we have reached the end of the Keynote 3 session. Thank you very much, Professor Gretchen, for joining us this afternoon live from Australia. So let us capture the moment. I would like to request all participants in this virtual room to turn on your camera. Can you please stop sharing, Prof?
Yeah.
Okay, so which camera are we? Okay, let me see. Okay. So how is it? Who is capturing the picture for us now? Okay, let me do it. All right. So thank you very much for joining us this afternoon.
And thank you.
Yes, thank you again. So, ladies and gentlemen, for your information, ISSTM-TED 2024 will continue with Parallel Session 7, Track 4, and Parallel 8, Track 4. So you may refer to your emails for the latest arrangement of the presentation schedule details. Once again, thank you for joining us in the International Symposium on Strategy and Transformation Management for Tertiary Education, ISSTM-TED 2024. I am Nolativa Adam, signing out from ISSTM-TED 2024 Keynote session. Thank you.